So let me just ask you again, who is your community? And what I mean by community is this: who are you being disciples and making disciples with? Who are you becoming like Jesus with? And who are you helping others become like Jesus with? Now, we talk all the time about community and becoming like Jesus, so I'm actually today gonna lean on the other side. How do we turn up the dial on our communities, not just being disciples together, but making disciples together? So I'm gonna ask you 3 simple questions along the way, and I'm gonna ask you to write some things down, okay? It's crazy. So those of you who are like under 30, feel free to use your phones and your thumbs, that's fine. All of the rest of us who just love pencil and paper or like to tangible, touchable, grab that. You were handed a piece of paper, we'll do something with that in a minute. Should have been handed something to write with or asked if you had something along the way. But I'm gonna ask you some questions here in just a minute. I want you to be ready. A Jesus community, I just don't want us to miss this. While you're grabbing that, I don't want us to miss this. Too many times we show up in a community, even a Christian community or a church community, and ask, what is here for us? We love for community to be established that we can just step into, and that's just not what Jesus had in mind. It was never at first about what we would receive and get from community. It was always about what the purpose of the community was about, where the community was headed together. And then implicitly in that, we get all the things that we would have looked for anyway. Laughter, joy, tears, praying for one another, standing together like I'll get to do with some friends this afternoon as we send 2 from our tribe out into college. We're gonna pray for them before they head out this week. All of those things come along with it, but when a community is focused on heading the direction God has invited us, which is not just being, but making. Now, I just want a few comments before we start making some notes. Number 1, community takes cultivation. This is why it's unhurried. So tell somebody, be unhurried. If you are in a hurry, you will not cultivate a vibrant community. It can't be microwaved. Ask any kid who's left all their high school friends and gone off to college. It doesn't happen in 2 weeks, does it? When you've moved from one town to another, you gotta cultivate, and you don't harvest the same day you plant the seeds of vibrant community and inviting people into purpose, but you gotta stay after it. You gotta give it attention along the way. And so this is why this series is called Unhurried. You can't have this kind of community in a hurry. And secondly, we wanna be the kind of people who are on purpose, which in case you didn't get the message, it's about being and making. Have I made that clear yet? Our purpose is followers of Jesus, being followers and making followers. Today, I'm going to use one simple scripture that if you've been around church, you've heard many times, but it is the most concise message of our shared purpose together, and I never want us to forget it. So here we are again, Matthew chapter 28, verses 18 through 20. After Jesus had invited these guys to be his friends, lived with him for anywhere from 18 months to 3.5 years, called them to be his followers and equipped them to make followers, to be disciples and make disciples, he came to them after his resurrection and he said this: I have been given all authority in heaven and on earth, Jesus said. And because I've been given all authority, Jesus says, here's what I want you to do. Go, and what does it say? This is one of 2 commands. Go is not a command, I'll get to it. Make disciples is a command. Jesus said, all of this has been leading up to me commissioning you and sending you to do this, make disciples. And here's how you do it. You baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And you teach these new disciples to obey. You don't just teach them information, you teach them to obey. Take on a way of life, of the commands that I have given you. And then here's the second command, be sure. Tell somebody, be sure. Be sure of this. Never doubt this. Never wonder. I am with you, Jesus said, to the very end of the age. I'm with you always. Not sometimes, not some places, not once in a while, not when you're good and not bad. I'm with you always, even to the very end of the age. In this simple message, I just want to offer us 3 questions to get really practical. Because by the end of today, here's what I hope, is that at least one other person in your community of being and making disciples together knows the answers to your 3 questions. You're gonna hand them, they're gonna experience this with you in those 15 minutes that we're gonna gift you back in your day before you leave. Everybody ready? Question number 1, right out of Matthew chapter 28. Where are you going? Where are you going? I asked you to grab a pen or your phone. I'd like you to list 3 places, or 4 places ideally, that you go all the time. One could be your neighborhood. One might be your work. Another might be the doctor's office, depending on your season of life. Another might be the coffee shop. Another might be the gym. Where do you go on a regular basis? A place that you regularly encounter other people. When Jesus said go, he didn't mean, that wasn't a command. It literally means as you are going. Like you're gonna go somewhere. Everybody's going somewhere, right? You all gotta leave at some point. We gotta turn the air conditioning down because it's expensive, okay? Everybody's going somewhere. Where are you going? 3 to 4 places. Would you list them out? You're gonna need them here in just a few minutes. You're like, why do I need to write this down? I know where I go. You're gonna tell somebody where you go, and they're gonna be aware of it. I'm gonna tell you why in a few minutes. Where are you going? Just 3 or 4 places. Some of you are like, drop-off line, that's where I'm going. All right, that's cool. Sports season just started, that's cool, whatever. It's kind of a turning point in our year, so think about where are the places you're gonna be going. Number 2, when you go, who is not just like with you or always around, but who is with you? Who knows where you're going and why you're going there and what you hope happens when you get there? Who has like a clear picture of your values and who you want to be when you show up at work, when you show up in the pickup line? This is your community. The people who are being and making disciples with you, who are those people? Hopefully it's some people in your family. Hopefully it's some people in your life group. Maybe it's somebody that you serve on a team around here with or have come to know in other seasons that you left in another community, but you connect on a regular basis. They know where you're going and they know why you're going there and who you want to be when you get there. I got to work out with a buddy in his neighborhood yesterday, and one of the things that's true about my friend is he cares deeply about the people in his neighborhood coming to know more about Jesus than they've ever known in their lives because his family lives there. So after we had worked out and we're exhausted, we start walking through the neighborhood. And he has made it a point to learn as many neighbors' names and get to know them as much as possible. But we encountered someone outside he'd never met before. And so I could just see, he like lit up. He's like going over to talk to this lady who's taking care of a beautiful yard. She built the house like 25 years ago or something like that. It's awesome. We had a great conversation. But as his friend, I got to stand there, stay out of the way, and pray for an emerging relationship that might point someone in the direction of Jesus. Who stands with you like that? I may not always be in his neighborhood, but I'm always asking about his neighbors. And I'm trying to stand with him as he goes. Who is with you? This is the kind of community we want to start to cultivate, where we're not just trying to follow Jesus together, we're trying to live that out everywhere we go so others might come alive in Jesus. In fact, think of each of the places that you listed out. You had 3 or 4 places, right? Maybe just call to mind, who was it? Who goes with you? Who knows you're going to those places and knows why? Some of you might not have very many names. That's all right. It might reveal a way that you can turn up the dial. Who could you tell why you go where you go so they could pray for you when you do? Who could you text just maybe once a week and say, I'm going in, this is my coffee shop. I'm trying to cultivate relationship. Would you pray for me? Who might help you along the way? Just jot their name down. Maybe that's a step you want to take this week. Sometimes they're literally with you. Sometimes they're prayerfully with you. Like I'm on a number of people's prayer teams, and I get to hear about the places they go and the people they meet and the things that they're hoping. There's people I've never met in my whole life and may never that I've prayed for on a regular basis. We need people standing with us like that if we're going to be a community that really follows Jesus. If we're going to do that, if we're going to show up places well, and we're gonna support one another as we do, we're gonna need to build that into our calendar a little bit. We're gonna need some rhythms so we don't just go about the next thing and forget. So here's a simple question. Remember the rule of life. What kind of rhythms do we need to prioritize to cultivate community? Maybe we just wanna set aside a particular time of week or a particular time of day to lift up those friends around us who are really trying to be and make disciples that we care about. Maybe we need a time or a certain number of times a week that we text to check in. Maybe we need to rebuild our life group time where there's a time we only talk about the people in our world that we're trying to paint a clear picture of Jesus for. What rhythm might you incorporate in your life to just turn up the dial on being with one another, not just in being disciples, but in making disciples? That's 2 questions. Where are you going? Who's with you? Here's question number 3. Who is close to you but might be far from God? In each of those places that you go, I encourage you as we talk, if people come to mind who you encounter on a regular basis, but you're not sure if they know God or are alive in him, just write their name down or their initials. Or better yet, if you don't know their name, just call them green-haired barista or friendly dog walker or whatever. Whatever calls them, and then maybe next time you see them, learn their name. Here's the thing. How many of you are followers of Jesus and are just so deeply grateful that God has awakened you to who he is and that you never have to live a moment without him, that you know who you are, whose you are, where you're headed, and he'll take care of you? How great is that? But can you all remember a time when that was not true and what that was like? We are surrounded by people still living that way. And here's the mind-blowing thing, is that God has placed each and every one of us in a certain time, in a certain place, that we might be surrounded by people who don't yet know him, that they might catch a glimpse of who he is because of the way we treat them, the way we tip them, the way we serve them, the way we smile at them, the way we speak about our faith with them, all the different things along the way. And so here's the third question. Wherever you're going, who is close to you but might be far from God? Start to write their names.